Welcome to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy TV. This is where you get the latest updates on business, finance, economy, market, as well as investment information. If you couldn't follow us live on television, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, press the notification bell so that you can get notifications. Thank you. Enjoy this video. All right, welcome back. My guest is joining me right now. He's Professor Franklin Ngwu. He's the Director of Lagos Business School Public Sector Initiative. Good morning, Prof, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Nancy. Good morning, Nigerians. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. Let's get started. I don't know where to. Okay, I've started. I've vented my anger because I must say that I'm really very angry this morning, and I don't know if you saw my opening. One would tell me, okay, why should I be angry? Please don't tell me about emotion, because as a media person, I'm empowered by the Constitution as the fourth estate of the realm, and my responsibility is to, give feedback to those in authorities. And one of the feedback this morning that I was given is that majority of our government officials don't know what is happening. The presidential advisors and all of that. Things are really hard in this country. I've seen in the last few weeks parents taking their children out of school, or taking their children to substandard schools, or saying their girl child should not go to school, eating is difficult and all of that. So, Prof, let me just give you like a few seconds to say what's on your mind this morning before we come. We're talking about burning economic issues. 45 seconds. Just tell me what exactly is on your mind.
Thank you very much for having me again. I think to summarize what is on my mind, I think it was Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka that said that he asked somebody a question, whether he is in PDP or APC or Labour, and the person responded that I am hungry. So it means that it's not about politics now. It's not about where you belong. It's not about where you're from. It's not about the church you go or the mosque you go. It's about that Nigerians are hungry. And in fact, I listened to your opening, and many Nigerians are feeling so. But of course, many of us don't have the kind of platform you have to express your feelings and the reality of what is going on in Nigeria. But of course, across board, from Lagos to Sokoto, from Sokoto to Bayelsa, from Bayelsa to Kwara, and Kwara to Maiduguri, the feeling is the same. I mean, things are difficult, extremely difficult, and we are not supposed to be in this kind of situation we have. And there is a kind of general perception that I'm not sure that the government officials and the government itself understands the enormity of the challenge that we are facing in terms of their conduct, in terms of their responses, in terms of their coordination of some of these issues. So the feeling is general in terms of the severity of the challenge that we are facing is unbearable in certain circumstances.
Prof, do you think that this government has an idea of how it will get us out of it? And I know why I'm asking that question because over in Washington, I've been there for a few days now, and I was speaking to a top government official. I don't want to mention his name. I had a private meeting with him, and in fact, he actually told me, oh, Nancy, he's optimistic, he's hopeful that things will get better. That we should just give them time, that they are working on a lot of stuff, things will actually get better. And I said, sir, things will get better when? Is it when all of us die? That people are suffering. And he mentioned, he said, you're always saying this, you're always standing on the path of the people. That was what he told me. But why I'm asking this question, is there a sense? Because he was actually trying to convince me that they know what they are doing. Do you see that?
I mean, in some, you're supposed to, your position in terms of defending the people is right. And of course, the government is also the main purpose of a government is to advance the welfare of the citizens. So in terms of the causes of where we are now, we can lay our hands on the reforms being implemented by the government. Principally, the removal of the subsidy and the floating of the naira. So In my previous interviews, I've argued, and also if you look at previous governments, previous governments have all implemented reforms. And nobody is against reforms. Nobody is saying that reform is not necessary. Nobody is saying that reform is not important. What we are saying is the way the reforms have been implemented, one, in terms of the sequencing, two, in terms of the communication, three, in terms of the reactions from the government, the way with regards to what Nigerians are passing through, four, in terms of the conduct of government officials and the perceived insensitivity to the situation. So am I seeing, with regards to, I've also argued that with regards to the fuel subsidy, if that was done and we now tarry a while with regards to floating of the naira, it would have been a lot better. So the not really about fuel subsidy. The main challenge that we have in Nigeria is the way naira has been floated, which I've argued earlier on is not right, is not the way to do it. They're supposed to have better sequencing of these policies in the sense that when you allow subsidy to go, you are now apply what we call managed floating of the naira. And now, because everything is tied to the naira, if you want to buy maize now, I was buying coconuts over the weekend, and the woman told me that coconuts, just small coconut, is 1,500 naira in Lagos. And I asked her, what is going on? Why is it going up? He said that dollar is going up as well. So if it means that once dollar goes up, or the volatility that we are seeing in dollar is affecting everything. So you go to buy something today, the price has gone up. You go tomorrow, the price has gone up again. It's based on the way dollar, and it's because that the government has clearly, more or less, implemented wrongly. I mean, the time that of implementation is, I can say that it's not well timed. So that's the main challenge. So now that we've floated the naira, under normal circumstances, that naira is devalued is technically not bad. But of course, there are prerequisites that will enable us to benefit from floating of the naira. Remember also that when this government came into power, official exchange rate of naira was about 4 and something naira, about 480 or something like that. And the black market rate was about 750 to 800. So it means that the true value of naira at that time was maybe, let's go to the top band, maybe about 750 or 780 or 800. So that means that if we have carefully managed it, that is what naira should have been exchanging. But even if we say up to 1,000 naira, it means that what we are seeing now, we shouldn't be seeing it. So the crux of the matter is in this floating of the naira. Now we have it. What the prerequisites I talked about before relates to the productivity of the economy, which we are not seeing at the moment, which we are not. So if, for instance, the productivity has gone up in terms of our export, non-oil exports, it means that we should be earning more dollars, increase the supply of dollar in the market, which will now bring down the exchange rate. But we are not seeing that. So that's the main challenge. And if you look at the way government is responding to it, I think they can do better in terms of the coordination, the communication, the effectiveness of the ministers, and the harmonization, or rather combination of between the fiscal authorities and the monetary authorities. So if you look at monetary CBN, there is a belief or perception that increasing interest rate might solve the problem. From my own understanding or reading of economics, or even practicing economics for some years, I'm not sure it's going to be the solution, because you're increasing interest rate because money supply is high, but it's not solving the problem, because there are other factors that need to be taken into consideration for it to achieve. So to answer your question directly, if the government can rethink and re-examine the impacts of these policies, and also, okay, we've done a regulatory impact assessment, which we call RIA, and now look at the consequence and impact of these policies, and now see where they can rejig, particularly in terms of coordinating with the state governors to enhance our productivity.
Okay, I'll come back to the issue of the ministers later. The next question should be, how can we get the jamboree of the naira to stop? Because the naira is the big elephant in the room. What can be done to make the naira appreciate, as it were? Because if the naira, for example, is like 700, 800, even some people have argued if it's 1,000 naira, this suffering will be a bit less. You were buying coconuts. The woman said, na dollar affect coconut. Because she's also right in a way, because she also consumes imported, one way or the other, imported goods, you know. So there is a spillover effect there.
So my assessment of what I can recommend, irrespective of what we do now, it might be short-term or just a makeup. The only solution that will help us with naira is to increase our productivity. That's the long-term solution, which will be sustainable, in the sense that whether we increase interest rates, whether we say we are doing X, Y, Z, or some of the other reforms, the key, the elephant that we have to tackle is productivity. We've not seen that in the last, will I say, 1 year and almost 18 months that we've had with this government. So there hasn't been clear policies followed by effectiveness of government to drive this productivity. We haven't seen it.
Prof, what do you mean by productivity? Productivity,
what I mean,
how? Is it
what I mean by
of individual
productivity,
Nigerians or what?
yeah, what I mean by productivity, Nancy, is that the woman I bought coconuts over the weekend told me that the coconut she's selling comes from Benin Republic and Ghana. So the coconut we consume in Nigeria, majority of them come from Benin Republic and Ghana. So if we are importing coconut, which is a daily consumable, you understand what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. So she's actually right by saying that dollar is affecting her business.
Yeah, affecting her business. So it means that everything. So if, for instance, we look at our oil exports, then we look at our non-oil exports. What are we? I had a program last week, and somebody was explaining his predicament trying to export yams outside Nigeria. And he said that it took 2 months for the yam from his warehouse for the yam to get to Europe, and all the yams spoiled before it got to Europe. So it means that something is wrong somewhere. In terms of agricultural production, we are not seeing it significantly. Of course, we are even importing agricultural produce, as the case may be. So in all areas, from agriculture to light manufacturing to basic raw materials, to even gas, to other things that we can export, we need to see a significant ramp up of this area to increase the dollar we export that we need. I traveled. I traveled to US the other time, and there was a man in Louisiana that sells plantain, and his phone was ringing almost on daily basis, on a minute by minute basis. And I asked him, what is the problem? He said that people are looking for plantain. And he said that it's difficult to get plantain because the demand is high, and then to get it from Nigeria or other parts of the world is a bit challenging. It means that even if we focus on plantain, that we can achieve a lot. The same thing in UK. I was in UK the other time, and it's the same. The banana you consume there come from Peru, Bolivia, Argentina. The okra you consume come from Pakistan, India. So Nigeria is not really exporting anything. Interestingly, the flight time from Nigeria to London is about 6 hours. Meanwhile, the flight time from Peru to UK or Bolivia or Argentina or Pakistan is about 14 hours. So that's why I'm talking about effectiveness of government to address some of these challenges. So these are some of the things that we are supposed to be addressing to show that we want that this floating of the naira will work. But it cannot work if we leave things the way it is. And everybody's talking about inflation, interest rate, this one, that one, without really addressing productivity. In the last 18 months, how many times have we seen a governor in Nigeria that said that now my state is exporting XYZ to 5 countries of the world? That is how we see seriousness of government effectiveness. And of course, that should also trickle down to local government, to state government, to federal government in terms of productivity. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm suggesting.
Okay. Now, let's talk about new ministers. President Tinubu, bearing unforeseen circumstances today, would swear in 7 new ministers. Do you think that this will increase the capacity of the administration and efficiency? You're just talking about plantain, for instance, and what was coming to my mind was the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. There's a new minister there now, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who was the head of PEBEC, Special Advisor on PEBEC and Investment. She will be the one steering the ship there. And I think also a minister of State, the former Minister of Sports, if I'm not mistaken. Do you think that capacity will be improved on in this concerning this reshuffling, and perhaps what to expect even from these new ministers? There's a new minister now for Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. That is a very important and integral ministry, especially now that we have a high cost of living crisis, that many more Nigerians are being pushed into poverty. I think it was the World Bank, was it 2 weeks ago? Yes, in their report, they said that more millions will be pushed into poverty. In addition to other millions that were there, we've not even brought out people out of poverty. We are pushing more.
Of course, we all wish the new ministers good success in this after being sworn in. However, you know, we have about 46 or 47 ministers now. So if, for instance, in a football team, and you remove one person and put another person, of course, even if he's Messi or even if he's any of the top footballers, if the other 11 players, the other 10 players are not coordinating well, it will be difficult for that new player to do much. So while there are 7 new ministers, I mean, just reporting what Nigerians feel, they believe that there should have been more significant reshuffling of the cabinet. I mean, and also the ministers being sworn in are in portfolios that are important, but there are also more important portfolios that should be able to help improve the economy. So in overall, we believe that even the ministers that we are not touched can do a lot better. I remember few years ago, if you ask me the names of the different ministers, I will easily tell you, minister of this is this, minister of this is, minister of this is this. But currently, we don't even know many of the ministers because they are not talking, they are not engaging, they are not saying anything. They are just there as ministers. So nobody knows what they are doing. So that is a big challenge. So in terms of, it's not about having 48 or 36 or 50 ministers. The question is the effectiveness of the ministers. So we even Nigerians believe that we have too many ministers in Nigeria. I mean, having 40-something ministers with the current situation that we have in Nigeria, I'm not sure it tells that effectiveness that we require. So while we are wishing these new ones good luck and success in their new ministries, I think that maybe the president needs also re-examine the ones that he did not touch in terms of enhancing their effectiveness, in terms of enhancing their coordination, in terms of enhancing the impact of what they are having on Nigeria. So I will give an example. We have National Orientation Agency. I mean, I'm not sure, they've been very quiet. We have agriculture. We can do better with that. We have new Minister of Trade Industry now, so we wish her well. So all the ministers can be better coordinated in terms of their impact and also engagement with Nigerians to really say, this is what we want to achieve, this is how we're achieving it, this is what we are doing, and tracking it to show that at the end of the day, if poverty increases in Nigeria, it means that the ministers have not done well. If we are not producing enough food, it means that the Minister of Agriculture is not doing well. And also the coordination between the federal government and the governors, because the governors have the money, they have the power, they have the land, they have everything to do a lot. But it seems that there's a kind of disengagement or limited coordination between the federal government and the state governors. So all these things need to be properly coordinated from federal, state, local, to emphasize on productivity.
Now, you're talking about, of course, rejigging and coordination, and you've mentioned the input of states. Of course, part of this reshuffling or part of this realignment is the president has created a Ministry of Regional Development. Do you see good sense in that? And perhaps what kind of initiatives do you expect from that ministry? For example, we're talking about there's no state in Nigeria that doesn't have something to offer. We're talking about plantains, for example. The South-South can even take that on and say, South-South, though, let's just be producing plantain and supply to the rest of the world that needs it. Southwest, for example, cocoa, you know, different regions. So that's actually what I'm thinking now, but I don't know what these guys are thinking.
I mean, you're very right. I mean, as well, we wish the Minister of Regional Development success and good luck in his new ministry. However, we don't really, it doesn't mean that some of these things we are talking about must pass through the Minister of Regional Development. I will give an example. In the previous government, I remember the Minister of Mines and Steel saying that what we have in mines and steel, that what we have in oil and gas is almost it can be said to be very small compared to what we have in mines and steel. However, what is happening in that ministry? Nobody knows. The Minister of Mines and Steel, we are not even hearing from him. We're not sure what he's doing in the ministry. So there is no traction. So, but also, even the governors can do a lot on their own without waiting for Minister of Regional Development, without waiting for anything. So it's a new ministry. So a state in Nigeria can decide and say, we're going to focus on plantain. A state in Nigeria can decide and say, we're going to focus on banana. A state in Nigeria can decide and say, we're going to focus on producing maybe just little product that we need in Nigeria, maybe sale pass, maybe this, and support them. So Abia State can say, okay, we're going to focus on shoes, as the case may be, and say our target market will be Nigeria, West Africa, Africa, as the case may be. Because once you leave Nigeria, you are earning dollars. So why the Minister of Regional Development can do well in terms of coordination, the state governors can also do well by working with the local government to achieve a lot. Remember, so if you look at agriculture, for example, the land belongs to the states. So it means that in terms of improving agriculture, which is the main area that we need now, the states have all the powers to improve agriculture that we have in Nigeria. But I'm not sure how they are doing it. We are not seeing the traction. We are not seeing the outcomes. We're not even seeing the conversation. We're not even seeing the communication. We're not even seeing the engagement to say we must do X, Y, Z. Of course, some of them will say we're not in charge of security. That's fine. But it means that if you are not engaging properly to see how you can reduce insecurity in your state, it means that effectiveness of leadership is not there. Remember also that there are states in Nigeria with less or lower insecurity. The question then is, what are we doing with regards to agriculture in those states? Let me end on this agriculture with pointing out something. The recent research shows that one economic tree, just one economic tree, will give a minimum of over 100,000 naira every year. It means that if we plant, let's say 10 million times 100,000, I'm sure you know what it will give. It will give about 10 trillion. So it means that if a state in Nigeria can plant 10 million economic trees, we'll be looking at about 10 trillion in the next 3, 4, 5 years. That is how to show seriousness of government. But this idea of governors not doing much, federal government seems to be doing more of politics than economy, which Nigerians believe. Then there is a crisis, there's a problem that we need to tackle.
Let's talk about President Tinubu's tax reforms. What are your views concerning it? Because I've listened to divergent views, you know, and I think perhaps, of course, NEC says they should be withdrawn. President Tinubu says no, they should go ahead with it. Do you have holes to pick in that tax reforms bill?
I believe that if you look at the tax bill, there are merits and there are some demerits. But I think that the main issue is about the engagement and communication. That is, so of course, you remember that the Northern Governors Forum had a meeting and said that they are rejecting the tax bill in terms of the derivation and the distribution of the tax. So many people believe that the way it has been is been drafted that some states in Nigeria will benefit more than other states. And it means that more or less that some states will be more privileged as compared to other states. And they're now saying, no, that cannot happen because of the way the country is structured and all that. But I think that NEC telling President Tinubu to withdraw it, and the president saying that, no, we will not withdraw it, but it should go through the normal bill process in National Assembly, they are more or less the same thing. Because in the sense that our House of Reps and the Senate, they are the representative of the people. So it means that if there are engagement required, the National Assembly should be able to engage all the people from all the local governments in Nigeria, from all the senatorial zones, from all the states, and now take their inputs in terms of when they are going to discussing that bill and to see how they can improve upon it. So I think that from my initial reading of the bill, I believe that there are merits to it, but there are also other areas which can be looked into to ensure that everybody feel there is a sense of belonging in terms of the distribution of the taxes, in terms of no section of this country will feel exploited to the benefit of other sections of the country. I think that is what is required. So it goes back to what we've been saying in terms of the engagement and communication of the government with regards to some of the reforms that are implemented.
Let's talk about the amnesty that has been given, as it were, announced by the Minister of Finance. Amnesty for dollars. What do you think that will do? Will it boost the naira? And is that a good offering? You know, and who are those even in charge of these dollars, as it were? People that have dollars at home. I don't know. I guess that Minister Edu should be speaking to the governors. You know, because anytime the central bank governor said that anytime that there's a FAC allocation, that the naira depreciates. So apparently, I'm sure it's not speaking to me, it's not speaking to you, because I don't have it stocked anywhere to go and deposit in the banks. But what do you think of that?
I mean, we've heard that once they share the allocation, FAC will increase. I remember some years back, I wrote an article and said that if this is the case, it might not be a bad idea to keep some of the allocations to states in dollars. Because at the end of the day, once you do allocation in naira, they take this naira and start chasing the dollars again, which now puts more pressure on naira. But that as it is, with regards to issue of amnesty, I've been reading economics for the past, would I say, 20 years. It's interesting, but in terms of the effectiveness of the amnesty is quite doubtful, in the sense that if you have dollars, of course, you can also move it into certain assets that at the end of the day, when the amnesty is over and there are consequences, you can also bring the dollar back into the economy and there will be no consequence. So my thinking is, I keep emphasizing that is about productivity to increase our receivables, and that is the money we receive in dollars, which we can now use to increase supply. Because if you increase supply, remember that this exchange that we're talking about is like the price of a commodity. So once the supply is high and the demand is maybe constant or maybe lower than the supply, it means that the price will start coming. That's primary economics. But as long as the demand is higher than the supply, the price will continue to increase. So irrespective of what you do, whether you increase interest rate, whether you give amnesty, whether you give coercion, anything you want to do, this fundamental must be looked into in terms of looking at the supply and demand for dollars.
Okay.
Once we can increase the supply of dollars, primary economics and demand is lower, price will start coming down. So if, for instance, that the central bank can have the firepower to continue to supply dollars on weekly basis, which can also be termed as maybe a managed floating, it means that the price will start coming down from 1.7 to 1.5 to 1.3 to 1.2 to 1,000, and able to sustain it for some time. If they're able to sustain it, expectedly, people that are keeping dollars, maybe in their bedroom, maybe under the pillow, maybe in savings account, maybe in savings box, maybe with their grandmother, might start bringing it out to now naturally, because the value is going down and they don't want to lose too much value, and they will start releasing it. And that's what we are supposed to have done at the beginning, not just coming out to say that we are floating naira. I mean, there are certain things you do with courage, but it's also important to examine that courage in terms of the fundamentals and the prerequisite for that courage to work.
Okay, Prof, we have to go, but let me allow you like in 30 seconds to comment, because the whole world is patiently waiting for the United States election, barely 24 hours from now. What are the implications of the Trump or Harris presidency on Nigeria's naira, investors' confidence and economic stability, and perhaps the implications of a second-term Trump presidency again?
I think that if it depends, really. It depends if Kamala Harris wins. I mean, I'm not sure we should expect any significant disruption in the economy or in naira or anything. Even if Trump wins, I'm not sure it will be an immediate impact. But what is more important, irrespective of who wins, is for Nigeria to improve its productivity. Because the US, while it's the biggest economy in the world, it's just one of the economies that we have. The question is, what are we going to do? The population of US is about 300 something or close to 400 million people. So the question is, what do we do with the other maybe 7 billion or 6 billion people that we have around the world in terms of our productivity, in terms of our export to them? And of course, you also hear that some people are talking about de-dollarization of the global economy. I'm talking about like India, China, and all that. So the question is, what is our productivity? What is our capacity to engage with the global economy? So that will determine whether it's Trump, whether it's Kamala Harris, an impact is going to have on our economy, an impact is going to have on naira or any other thing that we want to discuss about. But our focus should be on improving the productivity of this country.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Prof, for your insights today. I wish you a lovely day.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.
And thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. I've been speaking with Professor Franklin Ngwu. He's the Director of Lagos Business School Public Sector Initiative and an Associate Professor of Strategy, Corporate Governance, as well as Risk Management, Lagos Business School at Pan Atlantic University. That's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. Thank you all for watching. Please join me again tomorrow, same time on this channel. I am Nancy Naji. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. Bye. Thank you for watching. In case this is your first time watching us, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, drop your comments as well as like, and most of all, share our content.